Hello, my fellow broke aristocrats. Thanks for tuning in. Today's subject is the one thing that you can do to improve your health. And hopefully we're doing it on a budget. And so this topic, I actually wrote an article about it, and I'll link the article below. The article is called "The Best Thing You Can Do for Your Health," and then after that we say reduce stress. So as many of you know, I'm a medical minimalist. That's somebody who really tries to pare down my treatment programs, really keep life as simple as possible. And simple living is actually associated with longevity. Frugal, simple living is associated with longevity because of its impact on stress levels. I'll give you an example of how minimalism or simple living is associated with longevity. When we have too much stuff, when we live above our means, when we are running around stressing, taking on 2-3 jobs, not knowing how we're going to pay our bills, when we are stressed out about damaging a car we couldn't afford to pay for, all of those things lead to stress. And stress is an actual event that takes place in our body. So there are different types of stress. Let's first go ahead and define what stress is. Stress is really anything that, how did I describe it? Anything that takes us away from balance or homeostasis, or is a threat to the health and safety of an individual. Now, there are different types of stress that we can see a person undergoes throughout the day. Sometimes it may be an environmental stress. An example of an environmental stress would be radiation. If you're spending too much time out in the sun, you burn yourself, then that's a stress on the body. And then the body has to work hard to repair from that stress. Now, if you continue to assault your body, if the body continues to be assaulted in that way, receiving excessive amounts of radiation exposure from the sun, over time the body may not be able to repair itself adequately, and that is when a person is at risk for skin cancer. So that would be an example of a stressor, an environmental stressor. Another stressor might be getting an infection. You get a virus, the body attempts to get rid of the virus, and hopefully you get well, you repair yourself, and the body goes back to balance. As we age, if our immune system is compromised, we might not be as easily able to fight off a bacterial infection or a viral infection, and then a person might be at risk for serious health challenge if they get exposed to that particular virus. And this is why people with compromised immune systems, the elderly, etc., are advised to get a flu vaccine. So that is stress. Stress is any event or exposure to anything, whether it's environmental or even emotional, that causes an imbalance or loss of homeostasis. We call it homeostasis in the body. And over time, these stressors can have an impact on our health. Another form of stress that we talk about with people is emotional stress, like the type I had mentioned before, when we're under stress because we can't pay our bills. We're living above our means. We've got so much stuff that we're drowning in stuff. We feel overwhelmed trying to take care of all of the stuff. We have anxiety about losing the stuff, breaking the stuff. That is why simple living is associated with less stress, and less stress is associated with good health. Now, why does stress, emotional stress, have a negative impact on our health? Well, emotional stress, we now know, takes a toll on our health because it can lead to an increase in inflammation and an increase in hormones associated with inflammation. It can also lead to an increase in oxidative stress. So if you have emotional stress, This leads to an immune response. We're pretty sure it leads to an immune response. And that immune response in turn causes an elevation in inflammation. And inflammation causes oxidative stress or the aging of cells. Now, there's been some interesting research on how stress can actually prematurely age us. And there's some real science to support it. This is why, if you're looking at naturopathic medicine, if you're looking at natural medicine, the first thing I start with if I'm trying to help someone improve their health is getting their stress levels down. Getting a person to know how to self-soothe, calm themselves, and de-stress. Don't sweat the small stuff. And that's really the first thing that I would suggest also if I were going to give any advice to anybody who's working out issues with stress and anxiety, and if they're concerned about their health, is don't stress the small stuff. Learning to let things go. Learning not to take yourself so seriously. Learning not to take life so seriously. Take it from Dr. Whimsy. Sometimes we just have to laugh at ourselves, forgive ourselves, and not be so hard on ourselves. Really learn not to take things so seriously. I wanted to talk about a scientist, a researcher by the name of Hans Sell. I believe I'm pronouncing his name right. He was the one that developed what was called the general adaptation syndrome theory. And this had to do with how the human body adapts to stress. And he talked about 3 components of stress, and that was alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. Alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. And the reason I wanted to talk about this was to help people become aware of how they deal with a stress. Your husband comes home or your wife comes home and says, I was in a car crash, or I had an accident with the car. You're going to feel physically in your body alarm, oh no, tell me you didn't, resistance, and then exhaustion. Exhaustion happens because your body actually has to do work in order to return back to homeostasis, balance, or calm, emotional well-being after that type of a stress. So that was Hans Sell. That was Hans Sell, and that was his general adaptation syndrome theory, how we adapt to a stress. Now, it was also believed that if, as I had said before, we keep getting stressed out, over time we not only become depressed and exhausted, but it becomes very difficult. It takes longer for us to recuperate from these stresses. So when we can get people to de-stress, theoretically we give ourselves time to repair, calm, and recuperate more quickly from these types of stresses. So what is the first thing that you can do other than live below your means? Get yourself on a budget, live the simple life, right? The reason we're advising this is not because you failed at life, but because we want you to be healthy and happy. Can't reiterate that enough. Simple living is not the poverty mentality. Simple living and frugal living is a mentality of somebody who is committed to living a stress-free life and wants to live the good life. And that means not having so much stuff that the stuff becomes a burden. That trying to pay for the stuff becomes a burden. So that is why frugality and simple living is really a health choice. The second thing I would suggest is meditation. I've talked about this before. There are different types of meditation. I'm not particularly married to any particular one. I do mention transcendental meditation just because transcendental has the most clinical studies. I think there's something like 600 clinical studies on transcendental meditation. What's more intriguing for me as a researcher and as a healthcare provider is this alpha state that we talk about, the alpha state. The alpha state is the ability to get into a very, very deep state of calm or relaxation, and we know that it's in that state where the body can do its most work in terms of repair and healing and we're going to see a reduction in inflammatory markers like cortisol levels become stabilized, thyroid function may be improved, mood may be improved, depression may be improved, sleep quality may be improved. It's the alpha state. Is important takes place in the meditative state is to allow the body to get into an extremely deep state of relaxation so that the body can repair itself. Other things you can do is a reduction of stimulants. I've talked about this also. That's reducing caffeine, alcohol, and sugar, but also stimulating media that is causing your blood pressure to rise. If you're watching a particular news show and it's causing your blood pressure to go up, if you're getting angry and frustrated when you watch something on TV, violent television, reading newspapers are upsetting you, you might want to limit exposure to any kind of media that's also causing stress. I've also talked in the past about forest bathing. Forest bathing is a very powerful way to de-stress, and that is to simply take walks or sit in a natural setting. Some people get to this state of relaxation if they garden. My mother used to spend time with her roses and in her garden, and that was how she would de-stress. But simply being in nature is in and of itself extremely therapeutic. If you've got the time over the summer, you might want to take a road trip across America. That's certainly the frugal way to see the world, and backpack and do some camping, and definitely would go a long way in terms of reducing stress. In terms of diets associated with reducing stress, I've mentioned caffeine and alcohol and sugar in the past, but also foods that are high in animal products seem to not only be bad for our health, but they may increase stress. Now, we don't tell people they have to be 100% plant-based or vegan, but we do note that consuming more plants, eating more salads, eating more vegetables is associated with an improved mood. And we suspect that is because by eating more plants, we're consuming more antioxidants, and antioxidants help reduce inflammation and reduce free radicals in the body that are associated with cell aging, the aging process. And that may in fact be why we see improved mood and certainly improved health when we eat more plants. In terms of the types of plants, or what we call the superfoods, I'll list those below. Those are foods that are the highest in antioxidants, and when we consume more of those types of foods and less of the animal foods, that's definitely going to go a long way to improving our health. So this was a quick video about the one thing that you can do to improve your health. What I like about this program is that it doesn't contraindicate, it's not contraindicated with any program your doctor may have you on, and any broker aristocrat can do it. Okay, I want to thank you for watching this video. My name is Dr. Whimsy Anderson. This is Broke Aristocrats, and we'll talk again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.